keep on a talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Gonna keep on a walking, keep on a talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Keep on a walking, keep on a talking, marching up to freedom land.
Paul and Silas were bound in jail, had no money for to go their bail. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on. Paul and Silas began to shout. Doors popped open and they walked out. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on. Well, the only chains that we can stand are the chains of hand in hand. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on. Got my hand on the freedom plow. Wouldn't take nothing for my journey now. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Oh, keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on.
Good morning, heart and soul. Oh, I have to tell you that Black History Month does something for me always. It's almost as if it stops time in a sense. Outside of that, the other 11 months, I think I I don't even know how to explain that part. And that's not the point. What happens the rest of the time, it's during this month that I feel like I stop the action long enough to see life in context. To sense my ancestors' experience. To honor the legacy that sometimes is not present for me. You know, I wouldn't want to leave you with the impression that I'm forever. You know, this is not a mountaintop ministry. This is not mountaintop living. And so what happens for me during this month is I feel like I'm more conscious. You know, that I'm called into an awareness that benefits my living, that focuses my thinking, my awareness, my decisions. I call in a higher awareness and honor who and how I am in ways during this month, during February, more so than I have any other time. I'm not proud to say that. And having said it out loud, I intend to change it. And I am aware. Wow. I am so grateful for all of the production quality that we pour into Black history. I'm grateful for our video. Thank you, Reverend Sonia. Thank you for the collaboration of from the very first idea of it to the way that it has morphed and the way that we put it together for an online version, which just added other considerations to the mix, that there's something about this energy of not letting that stop us. You better ask somebody, church. Come on now. Because there's something that if I feel like Mother Harriet, who is always in our presence. We have the portrait, we have a little cutout, we have. But I tell you, in February, it comes alive. I feel her hand on my shoulder. I feel my ancestors, their hand at the small of my back. There's something more that's happening. I'm grateful for the Heart and Soul Music Ministry, and today specifically the ensemble who brought us Keep Your Eyes on the Prize. Now, when Sweet Honey and the Rock sing it, they sing a verse that includes the only thing that we did wrong. We stayed in the wilderness a day too long. You better listen. What the only thing we did wrong, says the lyric, is we stayed in the wilderness a day too long. I had thought I was just going to leave it there, but my tongue keeps vibrating, and I know that's a sign. Go on, say the rest. And the only thing we did right was the day we started to fight. There's no way for us to speak to, appreciate, activate, immerse ourselves in Black history, which is American history. Stay after if you're not understanding that. Google it. If you at home, ask a good friend who you know is conscious and aware. Because what I get is that for some folks, that won't make sense. What you mean? That's why we call it Black history. We call it American. No, if we were righteous, if we believed in justice, if we believed in equality, if we believed in having a table big enough so that everyone could pull up a chair, we would be teaching American history in a way that was all inclusive. And while I would say that we would still want the nuance of Black history, it would not be required in the ways that it is right now. As I watch and listen to the machinations, I understand there's that ancestral wisdom in me that understands why it's so important to keep it out. If you don't want your children to understand and come question you, if you don't want your 6-year-old, your 7-year-old, your 12-year-old, your 17-year-old to come and question you about where were you and did this happen and is this how we got that land there? And is this how we are in this way? Is this how? If you don't want those questions, you will change the curriculum. You will change systems so that so you don't have to go there. So you don't have to feel what must be felt in order for us to shift. Are we believing that we shift without first feeling something that calls forth a shift? This is preemptive. It's preemptive in the sense that we don't want them feeling anything that would have them question what got us here. Keep your eye on the prize, y'all. Look, part of what we're also, a piece that we've added for this Black History Month this year for 2023 is we have a display in the back that our beautification team put together for us, and it's to remind us to keep our eye on the prize. So for this first week of Black History Month, the focus is on education, it's on books, it's on reading, it's on being aware. So do take a moment. And even as you look at the screen, you can get up close and get a sense of what the buffet holds. And we didn't try to do it all by any means. This is just a sampling, but this is a time, Carter Woodson, that reminds us of how important education is, how important our reading is, how important being aware is. And so what we're also going to do is we're going to have a little Black History raffle. And the basic part that is clearly understood is that weekly, we are asking you to pay attention to the talk and then go to heartsoulcenter.org/Black History Raffle and answer the weekly question. And those correct answers will, the individuals who give a correct answer, and please just one entry, you know what I mean. This is we're going to call forth our highest. We're calling forth our highest. So it's one entry per person per week. We know you got tricks. We know that, we know you got ways. We're asking you not to use them here. And so you'll answer the question, and every correct answer we'll put a ticket in the pot. And then that first Sunday in March, we'll draw. Now, what that means is you may just do that one time, and have a correct answer, and you still have an opportunity to win. I'm thinking we may sweeten the pot so that the folks who do it every week have an additional opportunity for kind of a separate thing. I haven't figured out how to do it, and often when I do this kind of thing, the staff folks are like, what shift they doing? Because that's not what we talked about at all. So this is one of those moments where I'm like purposely not having no eye contact. Because I'm not, and the prize will be a Marcus Books gift certificate to just, you see how that works. We're just layering this thing. Yes? Yes, okay. So that's what we're doing. And you got it. And all of this is a part of our adventure in faith. where we are committed to trusting divine guidance. Just be with that for a moment. Trusting divine guidance. You see, it is in trusting divine guidance that it moves us into those situations. There's not a one of us that isn't aware of some situation, circumstance, experience that they credit divine guidance with having moved them there. Now, at the same time, I wouldn't want us to just, sometimes we get selective with where we see the divine. You know, we only want it if we like it. You know, we only if it's my favorite was it divine guidance. So we can also see how it moved us through some things, how we came through, how we got over, if you will. Or sometimes we don't realize right away that we got over. Sometimes it looks like we lost. Pardon me. Sometimes in the moment of the experience, it looks like this is the worst thing that ever happened or could possibly have happened. And then somehow in retrospect, somehow, and it's not about time passing, it's about clarity. We see it through new eyes. We see it through new eyes and we're able to bless it. This is our adventure in faith. Trusting in divine guidance, where we absolutely must be reliant on our sensibilities, our feeling sense, our ability to see. And I don't mean to vision, is what I mean. I'm not just talking about our ocular system at all. I'm talking about seeing beyond, seeing what the human eye can't possibly discern. Seeing the presence of the divine in a situation where maybe nobody else who's present to it can even see it. And it doesn't matter what the count is on people seeing it. What matters is that we're willing to trust that I see the hand of the divine, I see the guidance of the divine, the presence of the divine, that I hear something else. What? That I have my eye on the prize and all of my sensibilities engaged in a like way. That I'm sensing, that I am imagining. Y'all know that this is really what's guiding us, is our setup for everything that we're about this year. It's always an inside job. And we must bring our sensibilities to it because our external awareness is not enough. My prayer is that all of us realize that by now. That there's value in being aware and seeing stuff. But that ain't it. You're going to have to feel it because there's not a sustainable change in any of our lives that doesn't require a feeling tone. That doesn't require an emotional quotient, if you will, to it. If you're not feeling it, it ain't gonna last. Sorry, I had to be the one. But that is the truth. It's during Black History Month that I challenge myself more. I'm more aware. Well, because I'm looking at folks who did the do. I'm looking at folks who did it beyond. I can't even fathom. Come on, Mother Harriet, help me out with this. I cannot fathom on one level because too often I'm making a decision based on how easy is it for me to do it. How convenient. Oh, that's too inconvenient. I ain't doing that. I may start it, but I'm like, what? I got to keep that up. Oh. And then I think, Mother Harriet, you gonna what? Wade through water? But you're gonna? I'm like, my shoulder hurt. I can't hold it up all the time. But it stops me in those moments. You see what I'm saying? Some of those other months of the year, I'm really like, but my shoulder hurt. I can't do that. Catch me in February, I'm like, we're going to work it out. Give me some cream, some something. Because I cannot even say those words and stand myself. Because I'm aware of the shoulders on which I stand. That a shoulder hurt? How did you even notice that? How did you manage to focus so specifically on that shoulder enough to stop you from what you're being called to do and be? Just saying. So this becomes really important. So I just want to remind you that during our announcement portion, and I'm going to ask them to put the image up again, where we are supporting, this is our 13 month anniversary food drive. Now, I know we can do this. What we said was $1,000 a month. I mean, you just got to say $1,000 a month and go, because for our community, every month. Here's the thing, that there's always this principle and reasoning behind whatever it is we're asking you to do. So there's a consistency principle that we're invoking here. So we know we can get to the 13th month and go, we only have 5,000 out of the 13,000. And we would find it somewhere because we didn't learn the same thing. It's not the same lesson. It's not the same lesson as realizing that for 13 months you can make a commitment and keep it. And to know that you not only can do that, but you did it. How do you know if you've stretched far enough? If you keep doing just what you've been doing. So this is adding a little something. See, I know I'm adding something to it. And I'm not suggesting you take anything away until you look very carefully at how you have prioritized all of your giving, of your time, your talent, your treasure. See, I know we can do this. And when we did it in December, I think we were over in November, and then December, I think we hit it. I know we can do this. The bar is low enough for us to exceed it every month, if we decided to do that. The missing piece is clearly we haven't decided to do it. But you see, Mother Harriet would tell you that you ain't going nowhere till you decide to go. That a decision is a part of that. Now, you will decide what you decide. I'm just telling you that we are giving you an opportunity to try it on this. Now, you may decide, no, I'm working on something else. Well, all right, do you? Just know that this opportunity exists for us to practice the principle. Oh, I hope that makes sense. Because you don't need us to do this. But if we're going to practice trusting divine guidance, if we are really going to breathe in that this is an adventure in faith, it's not no adventure if ain't nothing happening. If you're just doing what you've been doing, what's the adventure in that? The adventure is that we're adding a little something. So it might be that you say, you know what? I wish I could do the whole 1,000. But my current circumstance means my entry level is going to be $5. But make sure you do a $5 entry level, if that's you. Now, if your circumstance is such that you're like, I'm not going to say it out loud, but my entry level is $1. Make sure you do your $1. Because there's something about what's happening in you. Nobody's going to ask you what your number is. Just make sure that your number is transforming your living. That's why we meet. That's why we gather here. in person and online and such. Whatever you think the reason is, inside of that is the transformation. Because I bet you whoever told you about heart and soul transformed something. So I'm just giving you that as an example. So the Christmas through Easter drive, same thing. And I'm going to sweeten the pot for you too, because, we have the drive because there is so much need. And sometimes we feel like I can't do it all. But are you doing what you can do? So I get nobody's asking anybody to do it all. But I am going to ask you to do some more. Hated it when my mother said that. Hated it. But I understand it. Why? Because more is required. If more wasn't required, we'd all be, but no point in talking about that because more is required. And if you can do more, you're required to do more. The thing about doing more is you don't know till you start doing it. And some of us try to know without doing it. Oh, but that's a stay after school lesson. That's a little extra something. But I think you understand what I'm saying here. That some of us try to decide I can't do that without having ever tried, without having ever experienced it. I'm calling you out. I'm just going to cop. I'm calling you out right now. No more deciding what you can and cannot do before you have. And I'm not big on trying before you get in there. Before you get in there. Why me, Lord? Because you know there's stuff I don't want to do. Some of the messages, I don't like them. I don't like all these messages because dang it. Okay. All right. Ooh. I kind of need a screen right here, right now. And our next home is going to have a little screen. It'll just come down and I can work stuff out back behind the screen. And then I'll come out and be like, whew, okay. But right now I need to screen. 'Cause shoot. Whew. So look, our practice, the opportunities for us to stretch in our giving of our time and our talent and our treasure, it's really giving of ourselves. That's what it is. There's no payoff until you get in the game. And this is a call to be in the game. So look, I want to give you a bit of an example here. Excuse me. Did y'all know that there is a place called Africa, Ohio? Now, some of y'all know. And this is good. I'm glad. So some of y'all from that region or who went to school there or whatever would have some awareness. Pray for the rest of us. That literally this particular area in Ohio, and there's a historical marker, and I want to share some of the information that I'm going to ask David, pass me my notes over there. Just pick up the whole thing and bring it without the phone. Thank you. This Africa community was, it said it's founded by Samuel Peterson. And the way this happened is that when Peterson moved there in 1824 in East Orange is what it really is. The area was called East Orange, Ohio. Well, within a few years from him being there, he began to hide runaway enslaved people. And he also had a church, a Methodist church, and he started having abolitionists speak. And that caused a split because, everybody wasn't feeling that. And so when they split, when there were those folks who were like, no, we're not having that, they left. The abolitionists left that church and built another. And they became Wesleyan Methodists. And so they were the safe haven, a home finally for folks who had been enslaved and could feel safe relatively. And so the marker that is there um, talks about that, what I just shared. On the reverse side of that marker, though, and I don't have a copy of that, so I'm just going to tell you, is that in 1859, excuse me, some enslaved folks from a North Carolina plantation, now this is in Ohio, owned by the Alston family, were sent north. The plantation's mistress had disapproved of slavery and made arrangements for those folks who had been enslaved. I understand she's a widow at this point, to travel to Ohio and freedom. So she set that up. Those folks who had previously been enslaved moved to to that community, and they lived in log homes and were employed by the anti-slavery farmers and joined the Wesleyan Methodist Church. After the Civil War, those who were freed left that area and settled in communities in Delaware and other counties. So, what happened in this particular area, that there was someone there who mocked this community and start calling it Africa. And the name stuck. They took it on. So that's how it got to be. And that, to me, I mean, somebody giggled, but that was a sparkle for me too. And I thought, how often do we fight the thing? How often do we take offense? Pardon me. When what we could do sometimes is adapt it and use it for good. I'm just saying that it's worth looking sometime to just see if this isn't an opportunity for good. So although the term was used mockingly, it was adapted. And they did that. So one of the residents was called Aunt Polly Jackson. I'm sure she was called Aunt Polly Jackson, regardless of how you spell it. She had escaped slavery via the Underground Railroad. And nobody knows, like, from whence she came and how it all unfolded. The story that we have about her is that she successfully fought off anti-abolitionists, the slave catchers. So here's what happened more specifically in that time that I want to highlight, because sometimes the way we tell the history is so mythical. You know what I mean? We just paint it like, oh, Mother Harriet just left, and then she just gathered people. But when we really think about the times, first of all, if none of that was going on, we know it was a much harder time than what we experience now. And then when we start layering on all of these aspects, we really begin to see the challenge in a lot of this. But I want to tell you this about the time and how Aunt Polly Jackson helped with this, helped to make a difference, is a way that, because this is what we're talking about, is us making a difference. So what happened? So you have the Underground Railroad, and it's the point at which slaveholders, plantation owners, have lost enough labor. At first it's an inconvenience. They barely notice, and I imagine they get a little pissed off or whatever. But then there's a point at which the numbers are they're like, okay, that's enough of that. And so now they're hiring slave catchers, which are the precursors to police departments, but that's a whole other lesson in whatever. And we see that played out way too often. I mean, we know that that's like hundreds of years ago, and yet it still is so present. And I said that's another talk, and now I'm trying to do it right here. So I'm stopping with that. And what I'm going to say is that there's a point at which The Underground Railroad is so successful that the opposite is what they're calling the reverse Underground Railroad. And what you have is the slave catcher mentality pretending to be abolitionist. So that's the ruse. So they pretend to be a part of the Underground Railroad because how do you know? And that's something that has always been on my mind. How did you know? That's why we have to develop our intuition. Because how do you know who to trust? How do you know where to stop? How do you know when to go? How do you know when to breathe and when to exhale? How do you know? You got to trust your inner knowing. Well, you can't get there and start developing that in the wilderness. You got to hone it. And now is that time. Yes. Okay. So you have all of that going on, and this is how they're able to infiltrate communities because they're pretending to be other and have other intentions than they actually had. So when Aunt Polly noticed, so she's living in Africa, Ohio, and she's noticing how they're entrapping and recapturing and all of that. So she's said to be middle-aged, but she dresses herself up as an old woman. Because what she realized was that no slave catcher was interested in no old people. And although they can't even. So what she would do is, first of all, she carried a butcher knife, and she'd go out at night. And she'd have, and I wonder, how did she have water so hot she was scalding people? But somehow she did. She didn't leave no note to tell me how she managed to do that, whether she had a little special thermos for the time. I don't know how. See, I can't even, do you see what I'm saying? I can't even. What I know, though, is the story is that she was pouring hot water on folks and stabbing as well. So she was. Remember the song said, the thing we did right was the day we started to fight. So Aunt Polly is here saying, what can I do? What's mine to be in this? And where she landed is, I can make a difference here. And so this is Aunt Polly's work. So look, we who believe in freedom. You see, I wish I could tell you that there's a bench, that there's a resting place. But in truth, we can't rest until the work is done, until we're free. I mean, I really wish that we could rest on our laurels, that I could tell you about how I was part of the group that started our Black Student Union, and that would give me enough points so that I could sit this out. Don't work like that. And it probably works when they say, oh, see, you got some organizing skills. So there's something extra for you to do. You see, that there's a calling on each and every one of us that we who believe in freedom cannot rest. And I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't leave you with this little bit of lyric that says, until the killing of black men, black mothers' sons, is held as important as the killing of white men, white mothers' sons. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until we get to the point where life is valued. And we're not afraid of saying, Black lives matter. Amen. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. Our time, our talent, our treasure is required. Now, you know, Heart and Soulers support me all the way. Somebody wrote me a note that said, Aunt Polly, during that period, would have had a cast iron pot to retain the heat of the boiling water. So I wasn't questioning, and thank you, because somebody was curious about that. I'm wondering, then what? Because, yeah, I could see the cast iron pot, but I just don't think it'd be much of a surprise. But so I mean, I know there's something else. I know there's something else, but thank you, because that gives us an opportunity to kind of drop anchor in the basic part of that. So, yeah, I get it. The water was boiled, but then what? So I don't know. Maybe there was some grits in it nobody told that part. And I took the hot grits out. I don't know. What I do know is that the legend, the story about Aunt Polly is one that was a part. And see, what it represents to me is folks doing whatever they can. What's the part that you can do? What's the part that you can do in this? Until the killing of black men, black mothers' sons, becomes as important as the killing of white men, white mothers' sons, then we understand, those of us who believe in freedom understand that our work isn't done until we're clear that all life, everybody's son matters. Every missing child, every hungry child, every elder, until we are embracing all humanity. But we have an opportunity, and I know there are more. I know there are more opportunities that I could speak of. But today I'm just going to speak about Tyree Nichols. I'm just going to invoke his name and image and remind us that he is said to have said during that time that he was being abused, not unlike many of our ancestors. Just the abuse, regardless of the offense. See, that's the thing that is very true and consistent across centuries. That for black folks, it didn't seem to matter what the offense was, what was done, because the outcome, the punishment, was often, it was almost as if there was only 3 different possibilities: kill them, maim them, or just abuse them endlessly. And so more recently, that's what we saw. I have asked, there's his, Tyree's godmother's daughter, I'm just calling her his god sister, wrote a poem, but even before we do the poem, I've asked someone to read it for us. I want to just, someone named Linda, who's a Habitat for Humanity client, when asked, what is home? Because I was struck by, I'm just trying to go home. And who hasn't had that sense? I'm just trying to get home. And sometimes we don't mean to the house. Sometimes we mean to a safe place. I'm just trying to get to a place where I can, so she says home is a safe haven and a comfort zone. A place to live with our families and pets and enjoy friends. A place to build memories, as well as a way to build future wealth. A place where we can truly be ourselves, she said, and whether our houses are big or small or fancy or modest or whether we are the unhoused. And just building community in new ways. They are our shelters and our sanctuaries. So in a way, we can say that Tyree was I'm just trying to get to the sanctuary. Just trying to get to the sanctuary. So I've asked David to read the poem that his god sister wrote. David?
I'm just trying to go home, by Latoya Yazar. I'm just trying to go home. Is that too much to ask? I didn't break any laws along this path. I've skated across barriers designed to hold me back. I'm just trying to go home, where the love is loud and the smiles are warm, like the sunsets that come from me in the coldest of my storms. I'm just trying to go home. I hear the sirens. I see the flashing lights. The directions are clear. Black skin, go left. Blue skin, go right. I'm just trying to go home. Don't I deserve to feel safe? Batons, badges, boots, bright lights against my face. I'm just trying to go home. Does anyone hear the pain in my cry, the struggle in my breath? God replied, "Come home, son. Now you can rest." I'm just trying to go home. By Latoya Yazar, Tyree Nichols' god sister.
Thank you, David. Thank you. My sense is that this cry of "I'm just trying to go home" is one that has a much larger social justice context. That as spiritual activists, we can sense, engaging our sensory perception. We can see so much in that. So much that can help us galvanize what is ours to be and do. How we can best offer our time, our talent, our treasure. How we can engage our knowing. Our sister, Alicia Garza, co-founder of Black Lives Matters, frames her approach to racial justice within the Black futurist visions. She refers to the month of February as Black Futures Month. See, how are we going to get home is a part of the question. How do we get home? How do we create the sanctuary where we're all safe? How do we first of all, we got to create it in our own minds. So she says, Black communities have always been futurist. And I think we bring that out in Black History Month. I don't think there's any other time where we cite so beautifully and so clearly the African proclivity for knowing something more than the obvious. For not living in what appears to be. Because if we lived in what appeared to be, I imagine we'd still be enslaved, based on some of the conversations. Now, let me be clear. All Black folks in these United States do not hail from lines that were enslaved. So let me get that said, first of all. But for those who do, if nobody left, if nobody saw beyond the law, the rules, the boot on their neck, my sense is we'd all still be on a plantation somewhere. If not physically, mentally and emotionally. Going further with this notion that Black communities have always been futurist. She says, because of the way that rules have been rigged against our communities, we've been forced to imagine a new future with possibilities for freedom. Come on, faux pivots. So we get that there's a problem. We get that there are the challenges. We get that there's a boot on a neck. And yet we see the possibility. We see that ain't always going to be that way. We wrote and sang songs that helped us. Can you see that they were but affirmations to a tune? Trouble don't last always. Now, it looks like it. For my mama's whole life, somebody's thinking trouble lasted. For the ones who never got away, who never lived to tell it. And yet I stand singing, affirming, trouble don't last always. This is our time. This is our time to engage all of our sensibilities, our imagination, to see the future as we pray for it. To see the future, to call forth new ways. Oh, I'm telling you. Because when this thing in Florida about AP African American Studies, just the hacking and hewing of what we consider just basic. Just basic. I have been incubating. This is trusting divine guidance. I've been incubating for decades an idea about having Saturday schools to teach history in a way that is spiritual principle as well, in a way that inspires. And I finally just got, well, I'm too tired. I had too many birthdays. When I first thought of this, I was younger. I could have done it. I don't want to do, all the stuff. When this started, I said, oh, Sookie, I see you now. I see you now. Because whose idea was it to depend on people who don't want to teach it to teach it? Where else you doing that in your life? Giving people your money to invest who don't want to invest your money. Where else in your life are you doing? Are you taking your treasure and giving it to folks to execute who don't want no part of that? But they went along with it and just kind of messed it up a little bit here and there. And now, my prayer is we're going to do something besides be outraged and our feelings hurt. And come on, we're going to have to tell the truth that a lot of us don't know it anyhow. I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't just say that out loud. Because some of us mad, but we don't even know what we're mad about, really. What are they not going to learn now? What are they not going to read? Have you read any of it yourself? I'm just saying that, the charge. That's what I'm here for. I'm offering the charge, the challenge, the call to action. So you're like, okay, you're not going to do it, then what are Saturday mornings for? I don't know where y'all grew up, but in my house, certainly you got to do we had Saturday television, but it was after. It was after the chores and the study was done. So maybe it's just time for us to just be like, okay, then don't. And just get the job done. Now, that doesn't mean that the folks who are working on getting it done right in other places stop doing what they're doing. But the rest of us maybe are locating some Saturday locales and putting together some curriculum, syllabi and such. Yeah? Don't act like, come on now. Who you waiting on to do it? I'll put a little sign-up list and just see whose name you were planning on handling it. But put your own initials by it so we know just who it is that has an idea on somebody else doing it. Because y'all can already feel that my sense is that it's on us. that a part of this notion, this vision that in trusting divine guidance that I got included this idea of behave as if, behave as if. So if that's something we want to have, now if it's not necessary, then just go, oh, good, oh, that's gone. But if we feel strongly that it needs to exist, act like it. Act like we really believe it needs to exist. Yes. Ooh, Lord. So how can we, us, my name, your name, how can this country, the collective, this community, this country, all of the collectives, ensure that Black lives matter? It's going to mean it has to matter to you. And I don't mean in the global sense, even though that's important. I mean that there's some evidence in your life that Black lives matter. I remember, I believe. Part of, let me see if I think I do, yes. Part of the lyric that starts that song is, I don't know how my mother walked her trouble down. I don't know how my father stood his ground. And this is my line right here. I don't know how my people survived slavery. I do remember, that's why I believe. And I don't know who decided that the lyric would be, I remember and I believe, because I really believe that what's happening here is we're imagining. We're imagining Aunt Polly. We're imagining Mother Harriet. We're imagining Frederick Douglass. We're imagining what they drew from, how they drew from it, what happened in that. And so my final call out is imagine. Imagine that Black lives matter. Imagine that Black lives matter to you so much that you're willing to give, to be, to do. I don't know how they did any of that. I really don't. But I imagine that it mattered to them. And I believe that it matters to me and to us. So I want to close in prayer. And I want y'all to come go with me because, you know, the book that we're reading is Dr. Dan's Guidance for a Spiritual Journey. And so for yesterday, January 4th, he's writing about the rhythm of life. And in that he says that the rhythm of life is that consciousness that comes with the awareness that truly life is a room with 1,000 doors. And one of them is always open to you. I remember and I believe. Come on, y'all. What we need is a deeper, meaningful quietness that will help us to hear the underlying rhythmic movement of the universe. This is our imagination. This is our sensibility engaged. I'm going to ask you to repeat this affirmation after me, and this will be our closing. I set in motion this day an internal source of energy stronger than electricity, more potent than high explosives, unlimited and inexhaustible. The power of the I am. I allow this power to take over my responsibilities. I, on this day, hand over direct government of my affairs to this higher power overdrive, this inner light, I knowingly and intentionally am the vehicle, the vessel through which the Almighty, Sovereign One, assumes command of my fully surrendered, previously exiled self. My life is now in bloom. And for this I give thanks. I praise God, the living one, the strong one, for this word of prayer, this affirmation that we have declared together, that I know and accept on the part of everyone who is willing. In absolute perfect gratitude, I release this word spoken into the perfect activity of law, and I accept it as so, now and forevermore, and so it is. Ashe. Amen. Love matters.